If you're watching this video, you most likely already know what most CPG founders think drives growth. Retail wins, great margins, getting into Whole Foods, finding the right co-packer, raising a round of financing, whatever it might be. And yes, absolutely those things matter. But here's what almost nobody's talking about. There's one lever that kind of drives and quietly fuels all of those wins. And it's one that most people overlook, in my opinion. This lever is what turned Old Spice into a category killer, what helped Olipop go from kind of just a niche soda brand to over $400 million in sales. Also what helped Dollar Shave Club crash their website in 48 hours. And it's also what helps turn Red Bull into the powerhouse that we see it as today. And if you're building a brand right now, it's probably your most untapped advantage. If you spend any time in the CPG world as a founder or an investor, builder, whatever your role was, you've probably heard the same advice on repeat. You need a great product, get your margins right, find the right manufacturing partner, secure shelf space at Whole Foods, don't scale too fast, raise money but not too early. And to be clear, that advice is not wrong. It's great advice. It's all really important. But the thing is, I've seen brands with perfectly dialed in ops, clean margins, solid distribution, and they still stall. And I've also seen mediocre products, nothing a whole lot special to them, absolutely explode because they understood one thing. Stories drive emotion, emotion drives people, and people drive sales. When a brand knows how to tell a story, a real story rooted in feeling, identity, aspiration, suddenly people don't just want the product, they want to be a part of it. It's a movement. So if your brand isn't making people feel something, you're not dragging people. And if you're not driving people, you're not driving sales. So you want to be able to give a story that people will connect with, it resonates with them, and they want to grow alongside your brand. The real secret lever, content. So here's the truth most founders don't realize until it's almost too late. Content isn't something you do, it's how your brand builds demand. It's how you shape perception, create trust, drive discovery, and spark sales. Content is the first impression, the follow-up, and the proof of value, all in one. And I'm not just talking about posting random stuff on Instagram or doing a cute photo shoots you have social media content for the next couple months. I mean content that actually makes people care. Content with structured plans in place. Content that pulls someone in, makes them feel something, and makes them say, this brand just gets me. I just want to be closer to it. That's what drives traction. Not shouting louder, not spending more, just being visibly relevant to the people you're trying to serve. The good news is this isn't just reserved for big brands with millions of dollars to spend. The brands that win, big or small, are the ones who treat content like a growth engine, not a leftover task that they get to if they have some extra budget to spend, or hiring a part-time social media manager just to get some consistent content going. That is not the kind of growth lever that I'm referencing. Just to give you guys a little bit more in-depth insight into what I'm talking about, we'll run through a couple case studies. Let me show you what this actually looks like, because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Let's start off with the bigger brand. So Old Spice. Do you remember the Old Spice campaign, The Man Your Man Could Smell Like? Now, it started out as just kind of like a funny ad, but that's not the impact that it had. This was a viral campaign that doubled their body wash sales in a matter of months. It wasn't just the ad, it was the content system behind the video. So the video, the responses, the tone, the persona, it was all created and mapped with intent. It made people care. Now, Dove. Their real beauty campaign wasn't about soap, it was about self-worth. Women saw themselves in the brand, they felt something, and in 3 years, Dove's revenue doubled. Content made that happen. Now, Red Bull. This is a massive media giant, but they became a media company disguised as an energy drink. So the Strataspace jump, for instance, where the guy jumped with a parachute out of space, 8 million live viewers, global buzz, sales jumped 13% the following year. That's the power of brand storytelling at scale. Now, obviously, most of the time, we aren't looking at becoming the next Red Bull, but this just gives a great impression and an understanding of how much of a growth lever content can become for your brand. Now, I want to give you a couple examples of smaller brands as well, because this isn't something that just large brands can take advantage of. So starting out, I'm not sure if you've heard of the Dollar Shave Club. So they produced, I think it was like a $4,500 video, one take, launched the brand into stratosphere. Within 48 hours, they had 12,000 subscribers. That wasn't marketing. That was identity-driven storytelling. It allowed people to connect with the brand. Olipop, I'm sure this is one you're very familiar with. This was built on content, period. Partnered with creators, made gut health cool and approachable, showed up in aesthetic fridge restocks, $400 million in revenue, no traditional ads, just pure organic content. Goodles. This was a mac and cheese brand that decided to position themselves for grown-ups. Built on personality, packaging, and that kind of TikTok energy, they 4x their market share in a year, all powered by story and tone. Now, what do all these brands have in common? It wasn't just the product, it was the content, the story that turned interest into momentum. So let's get into the pattern that we're kind of seeing amongst this content. Let's actually zoom in for a second. What actually connects all of these brands? It's not luck. It's not just a cool product. And it's definitely not a viral fluke. It's that they all create content that moves people, content that taps into deeper psychological drivers. And once I started studying and analyzing the brands that grow the fastest, I noticed something, especially after the years of working with content for brands. The best content, the kind that drives emotional engagement and real business growth, consistently hits the same levers. I call it the Activate framework. 8 psychological levers that sit underneath almost every piece of high-performing content. Not all of them are present in every piece, but there's at least one in every video that goes viral. So here they kind of are. So 1, the mirror effect. This is where you make your audience feel seen, reflect their values, their struggles, and identity. Use their language, not yours. You want to connect. Number 2, the status halo. Show who they become when they buy. Not what the product does, but who it makes them. Cool, healthy, driven, admired. Make that emotional sell. Number 3, the unspoken objection. This answers what they're afraid to ask. It addresses the quiet hesitation. Is this legit? Is this a scam? Will this work for me? Is this worth it? Are the benefits actually true? Are they actually going to make me a better person? Whatever it might be. Number 4, the familiar surprise. This is where you hit that sweet spot between unexpected and new. Use a format they know, but twist it. Create emotional tension and then a release. Number 5, the scarcity signal. So this is what makes your content feel native and urgent. Scarce, scroll stopping, and timely. The kind of content people feel like they need to act on. Stack on social proof, curiosity, and community energy. This shows momentum. Use open loops, reposts, influencer reactions, pull people in. Number 7, the story bridge. Create meaning. Make people feel like they're a part of something, on a mission, a movement, a belief system that they want in on. Number 8, the commitment cue. Guide small actions that build buy-in, watch, save, share, click, reply, because micro commitments lead to macro conversions. And here's the key. Not every piece of content needs to hit all 8. That's not the point. The point is to be intentional. Pick the right levers for the message you're trying to land. Test, observe, refine, and iterate. Because when you know what you're doing at this level, you stop guessing. You start building content that doesn't just exist, it works. You realize that it isn't luck, it's basic human psychology. And once you align that with your ideal customer personas, you'll notice this sort of momentum and traction start to grow and build. Why founders miss this? So if content is this powerful, why do so many founders miss it? I think it's kind of simple. I think they weren't trained to see it. Most are focused on margins, supply chain, ops, retail, finance, whatever it might be, kind of the hard skills of business. But here's the truth. You can build the best product in the world and still lose if no one cares. I've seen it happen firsthand. Content is what makes people care. It's how you shape perception. It's how you communicate with the world. It's how you build trust before a single sale. And if you're not intentional about it, people fill in the blanks for you. No story, no strategy. They'll probably just assume you're just going to be another product. But when you get this right, when your content evokes feeling, when it mirrors their identity, when it tells a story, that's when momentum kicks in. It's how you start that snowball rolling of people getting to know your brand, getting to understand, becoming educated on the benefits. What is it like to be pulled into your brand's culture? Now, this is how I personally think about content when I'm working with businesses and how I help build them a sustainable system for how they can communicate using content with the world and their ideal customer personas. So how do you start? If I were building from scratch, I'd treat content like a growth engine, not a task. I'd build a system that engraves content into the brand's growth. It's not an afterthought. So here's how I would personally approach it. Define your content identity and know the emotion you want to create behind your brand. What do you want people to feel? Do you want people to feel empowered and invigorated by energy and saying, oh, wow, this brand is incredible. It makes me feel active and motivated. Or maybe it's something more on the comforting side. Maybe your brand helps people sleep better. Whatever the emotional sale is, you want to be able to define how your content is going to tell that story to your audience. So starting off, build a simple playbook. Stories, tone, visual rules. Focus on clarity over complexity. It doesn't need to be this huge movement, this background story that has multiple elements to it. It's just something clear that people can connect with. Now, the model that I like to use is the hero hub help model. So you start with the big emotional story, and then you focus on how you're going to create an ongoing relationship with your content. And typically that happens with the last, which is help. So you want to create value-driven utility content. Why is your product going to help people? Why is it benefiting them? You almost are kind of like, you want to put yourself in this educational role. Like, if people don't know about your product, if they don't understand what the values and the benefits are, they're not going to buy it. Start lean, test constantly, post, measure, and learn from the insights. Don't overthink, just take the first steps, because it doesn't matter if your content flops. That just gives you more data points to revise from and try again. But if you're not posting, you're just failing. You're losing out on a really great opportunity for people to know and understand your brand. Double down on what creates pull. So repurpose and multiply, scale what works. Once you've identified these levers that really connect with your audience, you're going to be able to start repurposing some of this content, reusing hooks, and again, just multiplying and scaling what works for your ideal audience. Content doesn't need to be complicated, but it has to be intentional, because in a crowded market, the brand that communicates the clearest wins. If you're building a CPG brand today, content is not optional. Not if you want to grow, not if you want to last. It's the most overlooked growth lever in the industry, in my opinion. And the good news is you don't need to go viral. You just need to be thoughtful, consistent, and strategic. Because brands that feel like something, they stick, they spread, and they sell. If this resonated, if you're rethinking your approach to content, that's what this channel is kind of for. That's what my career has been about, working with brands to understand content and how to communicate for their brand. I'll be breaking this down with real world examples, showing how to apply this Activate framework and help founders build content systems that scale. So hit subscribe. Drop your brand in the comments. Let's start building something that's actually worth sharing together.